I'm going to do a bit, and then Jodi's going to sort of do a bit about the Playground Alliance. I'm Rob Allwood. I was the project manager for the play area. So actually, as a result of this, I ended up actually getting a new job within East Herts as a project manager doing other high-profile projects. So it was certainly for me, it was a successful project, and for the community, it's been a heavily used play area since we finally got to open it. So I will move straight on. Why is that not moving on? There we go. Bit of technical difficulties there. So project overview, really. I don't know if anyone saw the original play area that was there, but I don't think if I'm going to be honest, it was an unimaginative play area. Quite drab, quite past its best. Not really in keeping with what we as the council, and even what the Playground Alliance probably viewed, that Hartham Common is a destination park, or it's certainly viewed as that, but the play area certainly just does not match it, or did not, should I say, match the ambitions of the park. So we really wanted to do something with it and actually turn Hartham into a destination park, from being perceived as that to actually being that. So initially we were granted about £250,000 worth of budget to actually to afford this, and as time went on, we managed to sort of snap up a few sort of tens of thousands of pounds from other sort of pots within the council, and then we did a bit of crowdfunding, which we'll get on to. I don't want to go too hard too soon with that, but by the point in which we were ready to actually really start the project, we had about £400,000 worth of funding to actually do this project and do a damn good service to the park and to the play area. The concept behind the play area is, the old play area just felt like this is the park, and the play area, it was plonked there. We wanted a play area that felt like it was part of the park. It always was there, even though it's only been there less than a year. It's always been there, and it reflects the trees at the back of the Warren of Hartham Common. It reflects some of the sort of leisure and recreation activities that go on in the park. It reflects what's coming with Hartham Leisure Centre and how that's going to look, and some of the materials that are going to be used on that. So we want it to really just kind of feel like when you walk in or you drive in past Sainsbury's, you come in and that's the first thing you see, and the first impression is the best impression, and it's the best of what Hartham Common and even Hertford has to offer. The crowdfunding aspect of it, that came in sort of quite late in the day. It was a big part of the project, and I think in hindsight it should have been a bigger part of the project, but we were kind of constrained by the fact that we'd started the work late 2018, and we had a program we were working towards, and there'd been a bit of research in the background with crowdfunding and how East Herts could use it, and we got to a point where we've been engaging with the Hertford Playground Alliance, and we've done this bit of research with crowdfunding. It just kind of felt like there was an opportunity there that, well, what can we do with this, and how can we better utilise the great feedback and work that we're doing with the Playground Alliance? So we sort of thought, well, let's try and make it work and fit it into the programme. And probably the big learning point, if any of you are intending to get involved with crowdfunding, the big learning point that we took away was, if you're going to do crowdfunding, make that the core of the project, and then work backwards and then work forwards from that. Whereas what we did was, this is the programme, and then we'll fit crowdfunding in here. It was a successful campaign, the crowdfunding, but I think in hindsight it probably would have been more successful had we'd realised that from the start and then worked from that. But I mean, £28,000 of crowdfunding is that's not a small amount of money. That was a sizable amount, and a lot of that work was done by the Playground Alliance. So thank you, Jodi, and everyone else. Obstacles that we had to overcome. Actually, most of the obstacles we had to overcome was actually building the play area. Actually the build up from the start of the engagement with the Playground Alliance all the way through concept designs and public engagement, that was actually quite easy in hindsight. The real obstacles were lockdown, Brexit, and also supplier factories burning down. So with lockdown, we were due to actually put the first spade in the ground middle of April, but obviously end of March, the first lockdown came in, and most of the equipment we were buying was coming from the likes of Belgium and Germany. And if everyone remembers, they went into the hardest lockdown. So immediately we're thinking we should probably hold back a bit. So that kind of pushed back the start date to sort of October time. Then Brexit came in. We were hoping to have all the equipment over from the continent before Christmas. That didn't materialise, and some of the equipment came in after Christmas, which of course that would be Brexit time. Got trapped in Calais, so we lost a bit of time on that. Supplier delays, the resin-bound gravel. The producer of the resin, their factory burnt down at the beginning of the year, so we lost time on that. The pre-build was the easy part. The actual building it was the real difficult part. But I'll move on to timeline. Just to give you an idea, I mean, you can see from the dates there, this was a long project. So I think work was starting earlier in 2018, but I was brought on board to start project managing it towards the end of 2018. And by then, the Playground Alliance were engaging with us a lot more. And actually, a lot of the feedback we were getting was actually really sort of matching what it is that we were thinking. So we kind of saw an opportunity there of, well, rather than with other play areas where we go to the public and go, here's what we're thinking, what do you think? And then we'll just crack on with it. We thought, let's actually get them involved. They're really interested. They're quite well organised. They've got good networks. Let's actually get them involved and actually have the group looking at some of our documentation, which we never do. Normally when we do tenders for anything, it's usually sort of quite closely guarded because a lot of it's quite commercially sensitive information. But this is more of a public thing as opposed to a leisure contract or a grounds maintenance or waste contract where there's commercial sensitivity. We actually thought, well, we've got an opportunity here. It's nothing really sensitive. Just let them have a look at it. Let them give us some feedback. We weren't really sure what we would get back, but actually the feedback we got on the landscape architect tender package was really quite informative, and we actually took their feedback and put pretty much all of it into the tender package. I look back at that, and actually we got a very good landscape architect out of it, and actually a lot of that probably comes from the feedback we got from them that was really informative. I guess we move on to landscape architect. So we appointed Groundwork East, who are local. I think they're based sort of Hatfield St Albans area. We appointed them in May 2019. When we saw their tender package, their concept design, immediately when we looked at it, we thought, that's our winner. That's the landscape architect. But there's a whole lot of work we have to do to actually go through their paperwork and make sure everything actually stacks up behind the scenes. But that everything from the concept design to their paperwork to the price, everything was perfect, and it was under no doubt that Groundwork East were the right landscape architect. And actually looking at what we've got in the end, I think that's proven. So they worked with us all the way from doing the concept design from May, all the way through to public engagement, all the way through to planning, and actually all the way through to the end of the project. But we did a public engagement day, and we've got some pictures in this a bit later on. We did that on the 31st of July, I think, or maybe early August, 31st July anyway. And with that, it was a full-day event. We did it at the play area. We had activities for kids, just sort of, I guess, spark their imagination, get them interested, while they're sort of creating little bits out of twigs, leaves and whatnot, asking them questions about what is it you want, what is it you want to see. We'd note that down. And also while they're doing that, the parents would be getting asked questions about what they like, what they don't like, what they'd like to see. I think we had probably, over 100 people were engaged on the day. I mean, there's a lot of people swarming us. I mean, I completely lost track, but I'm fairly sure the number I heard was over 100, which was fantastic. We used that day as well to launch the crowdfunding campaign. So public engagement, the consultation, we did an online consultation that launched from the public engagement. That went on 2 weeks. And then there was the crowdfunding campaign that went from the engagement date all the way through to mid-September. And like I say, we generated about £28,000, which was a fantastic sum of money. I think everyone, between us at the council and even I think the Playground Alliance, we were all very nervous at, are we even going to get £28, let alone £28,000? But it was brilliant. So from that, once we got all of the data from everyone, from the consultation, the engagement, we got the crowdfunding money, we secured some grant funding from Tarmac. We had our sort of 400 or so £1,000. We then worked with the architects to take us through to planning. So that was early January 2020. Then we appointed the installation specialist, which was Honours and Sons. They were very good with the public, very good in sort of communicating as well with the Playground Alliance. I think that the relationship there was really, really good. The team themselves were just a real pleasure to work with and quite amenable, especially if we want to do some last minute changes to the design. They were quite amenable. So 13th of April would have been the date that we would have originally started, but of course, COVID decided to happen. And it was about August that we saw Belgium and Germany were coming out the worst of their lockdown. The companies we were buying equipment from, they'd survived the lockdown. So we felt confident that, between the crowdfunding money, the grant money, public taxpayer money, that we'd protected the project, we'd protected that money correctly. Those businesses were ready for us to start buying equipment from, so we did. And then the first spade hit the ground 5th of October last year. We were hoping to finish the project about March time, but between lockdowns, Brexit, and the supplier, their factory burning down, that actually went back to the 19th of May was practical completion. Unfortunately, I couldn't be there. I was on holiday, so I had to let everyone else sort of step forward. But I mean, I was quite happy to just let everyone just enjoy the day and enjoy the glory of it. We did have to, about 2 weeks later, close down for a week just to finish a few little bits from the supplier that had their factory burned down. That they'd finally got all their stuff together and sent it over, so we finished that. So the play area was completely done by about beginning of June. Okay, and I'll move on. Here we go. So just a couple of pictures. This came from Jodi, actually. These are pictures of the original play area, which, I think when you look at that, you can see drab, boring, unimaginative. I'm sounding probably quite harsh, and I think even us at the council will admit it is all of those words. It does not reflect what Hartham is and what Hertford is. You can also see the picture at the bottom left. There's a brick hut. That's the old public toilets, which have been sort of derelict really for years. And we've been wanting an excuse to knock it down and get rid of it for so long. And this was it. This was our opportunity. And we've replaced it now with a little wildflower meadow. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'll move on to the next one. So this is the concept design that Groundwork East came up with. So hopefully you can see then, you can kind of see why immediately we looked at it and thought, that's our winner. We just got to hope that their paperwork and all these sort of financial elements all stack up, which they did. And actually, looking at it in hindsight, the design actually is not a million miles away from what we actually got in the end. You can see sort of at the bottom left, there's a little sort of purpley bit with chasing butterflies. That was supposed to be the wildflower meadow. Not quite as big as what they're showing there, but it's still quite sizable. We've got the yellow bit in the middle, which is the huge sand pit, probably the biggest sand pit we've got in the district. And there's just other little bits, sort of like the path as well. I think the path that's shown there is actually identical to the path that was actually laid. So, the great thing is that was a concept design, and it's actually almost identical to what we've got, which is very rare that you get a concept design that looks like the final product. I'll move on. Okay, so we've got the public engagement day, so 31st of July. So you can see, the kids were sort of involved in all kinds of activities. The smiley chap in the middle looks like a sort of crown of leaves. So while they were doing that, you can see the sort of top right is a picture there with, I think Vicky's somewhere in there as well, actually. Where we're just talking to the parents and just getting their thoughts and feedback. But also at the same time, you can see the chap in the middle, he's holding one of those sort of charity boxes. We used
son.
I thought it was. So because we used it as our launch for the crowdfunder, we got some of the kids sort of running around with those charity boxes. I was like, the Playground Alliance did really. Running around with the sort of charity boxes, getting people to sort of throw in their sort of loose change and shrapnel and whatnot. And then that money was then used as the first lot of money that went into the crowdfunding campaign. So that was a really nice little thing, especially to get it all started. And it's sort of continuing the theme of public engagement, and which I think is kind of the theme from start to finish, really, where we engaged with the Playground Alliance. We had the public engagement day, and then what was supposed to be just before we started the actual project was a hedge planting day. So I don't know how well people know the play area, but the southern edge of the play area has got a hooped metal fencing, which is still there. And we wanted to keep that because there's a road there. So yeah, we ideally want to try and stop kids from running out into the road. But it's quite an ugly fence, but it's a very useful fence. So what we did, or what the landscape architect proposed was, well, let's plant some hornbeams along there, and then they'll grow and eventually sort of envelop the fence. So you don't eventually see the metal fence, you just see the hedges. So we thought, well, let's incorporate as part of this sort of public engagement theme all throughout. And we had a day where people come along, and we can see that everyone brought a spade along. Everyone popped in a bit of hedge and a whip. Obviously, we were quite worried of like, are these going to take? These are sort of quite pathetic looking whips, really, but they've actually established quite well. And I think give it another year, and they'll envelop that fence, and it will really look like a sort of hedged fence as opposed to an ugly hooped metal fence. But give it time. It was a really well attended day, actually, more well attended than I think we were expecting. Because it was I remember it being a cold day personally. I don't know about you, Jodi. I was definitely freezing, but no, that was a great day. Okay, and then sort of fast forwarding from that, so we're skipping through lockdown, and finally spade hits the ground in October. I mean, if you're looking at the pictures, I've set them up chronologically. So if you start top left and go to top right, then bottom left to bottom right, that's chronological order of some of the pictures. October was all about basically just ripping out the old, knocking down the old public toilet, ripping out the old play equipment. And then sort of November through till February was landscaping, it was installing the new equipment, it was forming the new sand pit. And then from March through to May, it was basically getting the grass down, getting the sand in, getting the plants in, and just getting it ready and presentable for first group of people who are going to use it. And then the next one, I've said this is the finished product. Actually, that's a little bit of a lie. Actually, these pictures aren't really the finished product. I don't know if you can see the sort of winding path is showing a black tarmac. The actual finished product is a sort of sandy, resin-bound type gravel. So what we did, because we still had a bit of a delay with that, we decided to do a soft launch on the 19th of May. So these pictures are literally from just before that, before everyone piled onto the grass and whatnot. And then, like I say, about 2 weeks later, we closed it and did the resin-bound gravel. But effectively, these are the pictures from just before practical completion. And you can see it's complete transformation from, if I go back, you can see the mud pile that was, and then the complete transformation to what is. Okay, what I'll do, I'll hand over to Jodi and let her do a bit. Jodi, just let me know when you want me to skip on to the next slide.
Sure. Thank you, Rob. Thanks for having me as well. So we started in 2018. I was at the playground with my 1 and 4-year-old at the time, I think they were. And the terrain, my smallest was just learning to walk, and the terrain was horrific, and she kept falling and stumbling. And that got me thinking. Lots of grandparents used the play area, thinking about how they would get around on the terrain that was completely unwalkable, never mind for a wheelchair or a buggy. And then looking around at the equipment, my older son at that time was already a bit bored, and I thought, he's still so small. How can he be bored at our town's biggest play area? So I started up a conversation in the Where in Hertford Moms Facebook group, which has quite a lot of members, and just said, look, has anyone approached the council or done anything about renovating the play area? Does anyone know if it's in the pipeline, etc.? So nobody really knew. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to take this on and see what happens. So we started our own Facebook group, which now has 1,200 members, which are mainly parents, some grandparents, carers. Formed that Facebook group, asked sort of people what their thoughts were on the current playground. I mean, some of the responses we received were not so nice, as you can imagine. So from there, we took some photos of the playground, packaged everything into this massive email, and then blasted all of the local councillors. And that's essentially how it started. And then from there, we had a response from, I think it was Councillor Deering at first. And of course, Peter Ruffles was very involved from the start, always trying to help us get the project underway and get our foot in the door, basically. And then, you know, they invited us to collaborate, which was amazing. Took on the crowdfunding project together. And then we used a local mom volunteered to sort of make us a logo, which is fantastic. And it all came together from there. I want to go to the next slide, Rob. And then just a bit about the crowdfunding. The Alliance, we had never used a crowdfunding platform, so this was all sort of new to us as well. But we sort of worked it out as we went along. And I think, as Rob mentioned, we probably did it a bit backwards, but it's a learning curve for everybody. So we worked with Groundwork East Herts Council to put together this website. Vicky did a lot of the text, which was amazing. Vicky from the council in comms. And then we created this little YouTube video. I don't know if you want to, if you can play that link, Rob.
Okay, let's see if it works.
Maybe not.
It worked earlier. Here we go.
Is it working?
Oh, can you not see it?
I can't.
Hold on.
Okay. There we go.
Okay, well, I'll do.
Yeah.
There we go.
Can you turn the volume? Are you able to turn the volume up, or?
Yeah. Hold on. Oh no.
So there is music and vocals. I don't know why we can't really hear them. But anyway, we created this using our own children. Sorry, children. As sort of a plea to put on the crowdfunding site to show exactly what we were doing and to just help generate donations. And I think it did help because it shows sort of the state of the play area. It was a suggestion from Crowdfunder, and it was, yeah, quite cute. So that was circulated all through social media and on the Crowdfunder site itself. So from there, as Rob said, we raised £28,505 in 42 days. We were under a serious time constraint, which is why the campaign couldn't last longer. Again, that was Crowdfunder's advice to keep the campaign short. We were hopeful to have received donations from some of the larger corporations in Hertford. I'm not going to name names, but that didn't happen. So the majority of the donations actually did come from local residents and residents of the surrounding area. And they were small numbers that fortunately added up. So it was fantastic. And I think it really made the town and the community feel involved in the project itself. And then also, as Rob had talked about, the community consultation day, I think, was key. There was they had massive groundworkies, had massive questionnaires there where parents were able to complete them on site, or children could actually do it themselves, just sort of stating what they wanted in their town's play area. And the themes that kept coming up were climbing apparatus, challenging equipment for the older children. As I said, my son was bored at age 5. And then water play was a big thing. Everyone wanted a splash park, which, you know, it's not the right space for a massive splash park. But the amazing thing is that groundwork, you can actually see in one of those photos, groundwork incorporated these amazing water pumps, which is more than we could have hoped for. So Groundwork East, the landscape designer, landscape architect, really took on board everything we had asked for and put together this amazing plan. So I can't thank them enough for the work that they put into the project. I just think they were outstanding. And then another example, I think, Rob, of how the council and the alliance worked together was in regards to fencing. That was a big issue for parents. As parents, everybody wanted fencing surrounding the entire play area. I mean, you've got grandparents running after little ones, escaping into the larger common. So we were so keen on fencing, and not saying the council didn't want fencing, but I think there was a bit of a disconnect on that point. But the end result was that we compromised and came together and had these amazing wooden fence posts put in. I think that satisfied both of our criteria and still keep the play area in a high regard. It looks like it should be flowing into the common. So I think that was key, and just a great example, I think, of how we work together to get over some hurdles. And I think, yeah, just some of the community feedback we received has been outstanding. Every time I go to the playground, people are still talking about it. Even the ladies at Sainsbury's, who I know quite well, talk about it every time I'm in there. And it really felt like a project that people were involved in, and I think that meant so much to everyone. So, thank you.
Yeah, and that brings us kind of to the end of I guess what we're talking about. The picture here is a sort of thank you sign that we put together with the last of these, the budget that we had. We had a sort of about £1,000 or so. We thought, so it'd be nice if we put something up as a sort of a thank you, acknowledging the businesses that put up a lot of money towards the crowdfunder, as well as also specific people and families who contributed quite a lot themselves. Significant sums to it. So the little green bubbles, you probably can't quite see it in the picture, but they're people's names, family names. And then on the right-hand side, you can see the businesses, which, if you can make them out, that you've got Sainsbury's, Volker Fitzpatrick, Motherfit. I can't quite make out the other three, but I think one of them's a school.
Duncombe School was one, and Treetops Nursery, I think.
Right. I couldn't remember if it was them or Busy Bees, but there we go. Got a better memory than me. What came along after that was also Tarmac. So Tarmac gave us about £50,000 of grant funding, and they've got a plaque as well, which sits directly underneath that. So they've got a little thank you as well.
Thank you so much. We are all very grateful. While I have everybody's attention, I should also mention that our next talk is on Wednesday, the 1st of December, when Chris Skidmore will be talking about the Friends Meeting House in the middle of Hertford, following its 350th anniversary. So I'm sure Terry will be sending out the notifications, but it's nice to be able just to mention our next talk as well. And thank you very much to everyone who came along, and I think we'll all have enjoyed this evening and learned things, and it's all been great. So just thank you so much.